Sometimes when you work in After Effects, you will want an image to follow a more organic type of path. We've already been working with animating the property of position, but for the most part, the path that the object will follow is going to be fairly linear. So in this particular composition that I've set up, we're going to learn how we can animate an object and have it follow a path. The composition that I have is made up of 3 different layers. The first layer is my star layer, then I have a rocket layer, and then I have some planets. We're going to be animating the rocket, and we're going to have it fly around the composition in a more organic fashion. We'll go ahead and we'll have the rocket start on one of our planets. So I'm going to position the rocket so it's sitting over one of the planets. Now currently the rocket is behind the planet layer. So let's go ahead and drag the rocket to the uppermost layer. I'm also going to open up scaling, and we'll scale down the rocket so that it's fairly small to start off with initially. Then we're going to have the rocket shoot up and we'll have it fly all around our composition. In order to have an element follow a path, you need to first create the path. I'm going to make sure that nothing is selected. I'll use my pen tool, and I'm going to go ahead and click, hold, and drag to drag out smooth points, and we'll just go ahead and make a path for our rocket to follow. So our rocket is just going to fly all around the starry sky. All right, as you can see, I have a pretty complex path that I want my rocket to follow. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the shape layer, I'm going to open up the contents, shape 1, and I'll open the path, and I'm going to actually drill down to the actual path that we've created. You need to select the path and copy it. Then we'll go ahead and we'll select our rocket layer. I'm going to click P to open the property of position, and I'm going to just simply go ahead and paste in the position property. And as you can see, a bunch of keyframes are made. And if we play our animation, you can see that the rocket is following the path. And I want this path to be a little bit slower, so I'm simply going to grab the keyframes and I'll just stretch them out in time, and that will help to slow the path of the rocket. I'm using my Shift key to deselect the first frame in the selection so that I can continue to move the additional keyframes down in time. Let's go ahead and play our animation now. Okay, now it's going a little bit slower. Now the issue that we're having right now is the rocket follows the path, but you can see that it doesn't follow it in the way that we would expect it to. It stays at its vertical orientation. And what we ultimately want to do is we want the rocket to actually be pointed in the correct direction. So with the rocket layer selected, I'm simply going to go to Layer, Transform, and we're going to say Auto Orient. When we open this, we can choose how we want our element to be orientated in relationship to the path. So I'm going to select Orient Along Path. I'll click OK. And now if we scrub through the timeline, you can see that the rocket has changed. Our rocket is still not moving in the way that we might want it to move. And the issue is that it doesn't start off at the right rotation. So with the rocket selected, I'm going to hit Shift R to open rotation. And we're not going to do any sort of keyframes, but I'm just going to move the rocket so it's pointed towards the path. If I scrub through the animation now, you'll see that the rocket follows the path in a way that we would expect it to. In addition to having our rocket follow the path like it is, let's animate scaling. So with the rocket layer selected, I'm going to hit Shift S to open up scaling. We'll keyframe this, so I'm going to turn on keyframing, and I'm just going to move to the last keyframe that we have. And then what we'll do is we'll just increase the scaling of the rocket a little bit. So now our animation should be set. We no longer need this shape layer. As a matter of fact, as soon as you copy the path and paste it onto position, you can basically get rid of it. So I'm going to delete that. And if we play our animation, you can see that now we have a very complex path that our rocket is following, and we were able to create this very easily by making a path and then simply placing the path onto the position property. In addition to wanting to have an object follow a path, you can also put text on a path. So let's go ahead and let's create some text. I'm going to use my text tool, and I'm just going to click in the middle of my composition, and we'll go ahead and type outer space. As usual, you can select the text and you'll be able to pick any sort of font that you want to use and modify the size of the font and any additional settings. I'll just use this particular font and I'll reduce the size down slightly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the text follow a closed shape. We can put the text on a open or closed path. If you wanted it to follow an open path, you would follow the exact same steps that we just did on the rocket. But let's look at how we would put this on a closed path. We'll go ahead and use our elliptical tool, and I'm going to draw a circle. I'll hold down the Shift key to make the circle a perfect circle. Because I had the text layer selected, you can see that I'm actually creating a mask. In order for us to apply this, this will still actually work. So I have my mask, and as we would expect, it is obscuring part of the text. I'll move my playback head back to the beginning. I'll go to the text layer. I'm going to go to the text category, and we'll open up path options. From here, I'm going to change the path to be mask 1. And when I do that, you can see that my text is now placed on the circle. And let's actually reduce the size of the text just a little bit. I'll do this by just typing in a new value for my text. I'm also going to select my text by triple clicking, and we're going to go ahead and create some space between the letters. I'll increase the tracking on my text just to open this up a little bit. Now that we have the text on the path, we can actually animate this. In order to animate the text, we're going to be augmenting our first and last margin. So you can see as I adjust first and last margin, the text is going to move around the circle. We can also place the text on the outer portion of the circle, and we do that by clicking reverse path and turning this on. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust my text so it's right around here, and let's go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. I'll select my text and reduce it down to about 110. And now I think my tracking is a little high, so I'll reduce that down as well. And what we're going to do is we're just going to animate the text. So I'm going to keyframe my last margin at frame 1. I'm going to click U to close everything, and then I'll select all the layers and click U, just so I can see where my keyframes end on my rocket. So I'm going to move my playback head so that the playback head is at where the rocket is going to end. We'll go back to our text layer, and we're going to adjust the first margin settings, and we'll just go ahead and have the text move to the right-hand side of our elliptical circle. I'm going to select all of the keyframes that we have created, and we will apply easing. The keyboard shortcut for easing is F9, and for whatever reason on my computer I have to hit function F9, but this is the keyboard shortcut for easy ease. If I move back to the beginning and we play our animation, you will see how the rocket is going to fly all around and my text is going to animate accordingly. Clearly, you can do all sorts of creative things by animating both elements and text along paths.